Your search for unbeatable internet speeds is over. Visit Docomo Pacific today and sign up for as low as $60 a month so you can experience our fast, reliable internet speeds for yourself. Docomo Pacific, better together.
Half a day is in Tiro. Good morning. We are at the CNMI Governor's Conference Room with the Governor's Senior Policy Advisor, Clyde Narita. Mr. Narita, thanks for making time. I know yesterday the big announcement was revised austerity measures. Why did they have to be revised, and what are the revisions?
So, good morning, Tomas. The revision of the austerity measure is the notification of the employees from sitting down and meeting with the Attorney General weeks into the first directive. So the revision basically is just proper notification to the employees. So civil service employees effective today are being notified that the hours will be 70 hours cut, or could be more by November 18, and then certain exempt or contract employees up to this November 30. And then there's another tier of exempted employees that require a 60-day notice. So the department heads, when we sat down with them yesterday, we told them to review the individual contracts of those employees, figure out which one of them fall under, and start to notify them today. So all notification goes out today to each and every employee from each of the respective departments. There was a notification that went out with civil service, with OPM last week and a half. That notification is rescinded and is replaced by this one because the proper channel has to come from the governor of the Commonwealth.
And what are some of the major shifts? It's really just the reduction in hours, right? The notification in there.
Yes, because we're setting up the foundation, because at the end of the day, and we're gonna touch into the MPLT loan, as I mentioned to you in our last interview. The MPLT loan is very critical to the 2026 budget. Without that MPLT loan, we're going to be in a very critical position in the government, not only the executive branch, but other autonomous agencies, PSS, NMC, MVA, and so forth, right? So this foundation that we're setting up is the notification are in advance. It's notify everybody that the reduction of hours will go down to 70 on November 18 for civil service, November 30 for contract employees. But that the hours could also go down to probably 58 again. And so it depends on how the legislature reacts on the revised budget that the governor has submitted to them, and how MPOT and the legislature reacts or acts on the MPLT loan. The governor has been working furiously with his key staff, with the legislature and with MPLT, trying to find a middle ground on getting that loan passed for the government.
While we're on it, might as well just delve into the MPLT issue now.
I figured it's gonna happen, right?
Yes. So, this is your world, right? You guys live in it, and we do too as the media.
Yes.
We're following it. But for someone watching this from the outside, just our, the governor's constituents, why is it taking so long? Like, how would you explain it to the community? Why is it taking so long to come to an agreement during this, when we need the money, right?
Yes. I think that everybody concerned, from MPLT, from the legislature, and from the governor, they all know that it's critical. They all know that it's essential for that loan to happen, including MPLT. I mean, right. They're not saying no.
Yeah.
Right. The law has already been passed that they need to approve the loan, but when you get to the parts of legalities and lawyers involved, the technicality of languages are there. So right now, from what we're understanding from working with the legislature and MPLT, is the indemnification for the MPLT board, because the way the way they propose the loan and with margin is something that the legislature does not agree. So indemnification is what they're trying to ask, and hopefully today in our meeting this afternoon, that is resolved, or there's some kind of a amicable solution to that language, and hopefully. So yes, it's been back and forth for the past 3-4 weeks. Before that, even before that,
Right.
before the fiscal year.
If you had to put a percentage, how much percent are we at reaching 100% right now in terms of the negotiation?
Well, I'll tell you that before the new fiscal year, October 1st, it was we were both were opposite end of the spectrum, yeah, both the House, the legislature, and the MPLT. So right now we've arrived at that one subject, which is the indemnification, and they had to overcome obstacles, and give and take on the negotiation. But I think that having just one agenda this afternoon, one obstacle that they need to overcome, that's more easier. I think it's just probably setting aside probably differences, and I feel that sometimes it's just maybe some personal differences involved, but of the key negotiators. But I think that should be overcome this afternoon. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah.
All right, we'll be waiting.
Yeah.
We'll be waiting. I know
Yes.
everyone's waiting. Okay, so getting back to the revised austerity, I did notice that there are also a lot more explanations and specific directives
Right.
in there.
Yes.
I did want to follow up on terminations, furloughs, and reduction in force.
Right.
So I know since last time we spoke, you mentioned maybe 100 or so are AWOL, I think you mentioned.
Right.
But where are we at with that? Has anyone been let go?
So the subject of the AWOL, that's all been processed. The departments already have received the name. They're working on the paperwork and so forth. We've met with OPM, and we requested that template for the AWOL termination language. So it's happened. The departments are doing that on their own. So it's happening, and it's moving forward expeditiously. Of how fast they pace, I think so depends on the department head and how they run it. But all of the departments have received the names of the employees that are AWOL, and they're processing the paperwork. Now, some departments are a little bit different. OPM, like for example, with fire, because fire has a different scheduling. It's 106. OPM has labeled that as to be 200 some hours of AWOL, not 80 hours. So that's been resolved right now with our legal counsel, with them and the Civil Service Commission. But it's an individual case by case, so it's not a whole group of people.
And how many employees again are under the executive branch?
So total FTE for the executive branch, full-time employees budgeted is 2,400.
Okay.
But the total employees currently filling those slots is only, I think, 1,900.
Okay.
So, and most of the vacant positions have been eliminated in the budget. In the current budget that was passed by the House, and even in the revised budget that the governor has submitted to the legislature, all of the FTEs or full-time vacant positions have been eliminated from the budget.
Another one I noticed that was new in this directive was the limitations on contracts, leases, and subscriptions. I know when we first announced this news and even interviewing people at the Sabalo market, everyone brought up the leased vehicles. So here you're giving the executive heads, department heads, power to cut their own expenses when it comes to those leases and contracts, right?
It's and with for me personally now, I put a lot of effort on department heads, right? I mean, they're the head of that department. Their job is to lead that agency to provide that public service and critical service. Now, for me as a senior policy advisor or the chief of staff to go down and tell them which vehicle for them not to renew or to turn back, that's if I'm going to micromanage my department, then I think that I would recommend the governor to replace you as a department head, and get somebody who can run that department. And we put a lot of trust and faith in the department head, and especially because Governor Apatang inherited his cabinet, right? And he wants this cabinet to work and stand up and feel that expectation that he wants them to be, which is the head of that department. So he's been pushing those guys to do that and showing that, and so reporting back on their progress. not telling them day by day what they need to do. That's something that you as a department head should be doing. But yes, we've put a lot of burden on them. We've given them a wide array of tasking orders, you might say, but they need to be the ones to figure out which one works. Even deployment and scheduling of people. There's people that are assigned to non-essential that they need to either put them out in essential services because of who they are, like police officers or firefighters. You mean there shouldn't be like 5 police officers in logistics, as far as I'm concerned. You shouldn't do that. We need police officers on the street to start to patrol and protect, right? So again, that decision has to be made by that department head. And
All right, and just touching back about what the potentials are, if we don't get the loan, what are the hours going to look like if we don't get the loan from MPLT?
God forbid, but that's why the directive is out.
Yeah.
The notifications are coming out today for all the employees. But worst case scenario would be 58 hours. Worst case scenario that I see, the loan not being approved. Now, even at 70, it's a struggle for families and for employees and for the government to provide the service. Yeah, 58 is just, we were looking at the numbers, we ran the scenarios up and down, left and right, and it's hard. It's hard. I mean, there will be drastic cuts in services, protection. So we don't want to go there, but we have to plan. There's a saying that it's better to have and not need than need and not have, because I don't want to react to not having that loan and then react right there trying to figure out what to do and run around like blind mice, right? So the plan is in play, the scheduling is in play, but it's an issue of hoping that for the best that it doesn't go that way.
And I want to follow up on that, but first I also want to address food stamps because November 1st is tomorrow. And while I think the EBT card distributions are happening,
yes,
we're not going to be able to use that card, right? And I know it's because of the federal government shutdown. Kimberly King-Hines, our delegate, has written about NAP being a block grant with potential unused funds.
Right.
But even the administration is not budging about using unused funds at on the federal level, right? For other states. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that for context, right? But I know Governor Apatang requested $3.9 million from the legislature. Full disclosure, I did ask for an update from House Speaker Edmund Villagomez last night. He said that it's the Ways and Means Committee is working on it. But of course, people are wondering what's going on. So any update?
Yeah, so again, as I said with the Governor Apatang, right, trying to negotiate this whole thing between MPLT and the legislature, right? Yeah. So just the other day, we were at the legislature, the governor, and met with the speaker and the chairman of Ways and Means, especially about food stamp that day. And obviously, his letter requested for 3.9 million. We know that there was a 3.7 million realized additional funds that were reported by Revenue Tax or the Department of Finance, but we didn't realize that until after the fiscal year, because it was the collection made on September 20 all the way to the 30th, right? Yeah. So knowing that, we basically said, the way to do is responded. There was a way that we requested the 3.9 to be for food stamp, which is not necessarily approve the entire 3.9, but rather in sequence of 900,000 per week in November, until such time that the politics of DC, it resolves itself. We understand also from Congresswoman Kimberly Hines that the NAP, being not a SNAP program but a NAP, which is a relief to us, but then that is only an administrative decision that the Secretary of Agriculture, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, has to decide on. And she needed to make that letter and request or ask, and she did. And we're hoping for that also to appear, because there is leftover funds in the NAP program here in the CNMI, and it's here. It's physically here. The money's here, right? But they can't touch it, and the instructions have been clear from their grantor that you can't touch it. You cannot touch it until such time it's resolved by Congress. So, but the language itself allows for the Secretary of Agriculture to do that. So multiple solutions are in the play to do this, right? Of course, the local funding itself, and of course, Uncle Sam and the NAP program. But it's up to there on how the legislature, the House of Ways and Means, wants to do it. They know there's a solution. They can find it. It's how to language it, because we don't want to commit the entire 3.7 or 3.9 and then find out that it's approved, and so. But they can reprogram it, or they can reauthorize it again for a different tasking. But again, we've all sat down. We've talked about this, and it's now in the legislature, and it's now in U.S. Department of Secretary of Agriculture to move on those things. But they can do piecemeal on this. So we've all offered a solution. We've all understand what it can be. So hopefully, and I know the legislature was busy this week with the APIO, and that's done. So hopefully that this afternoon in our meeting with MPLT also. So we see what happens this afternoon, and probably next week on how it is. But I can't say much other than we've offered all the solutions. We've all come to identifying the solutions.
Yeah, and I know you're the senior policy advisor, but you're here as the governor's rep as well for the interview. I mean, what's the administration's message to families? I mean, it's just hit after hit, right? I mean, how are we gonna make it?
It's a couple of nonprofit groups have approached the governor's office about working with food banks and donations and so forth. We've tasked the Homeland Security office to work with them in coordinating collection, food drives, and so forth. And so again, it's not just like we're waiting for this. What we can do is find a solution, work with other solutions, and make it happen. But we just don't rely on the legislature or food stamp program to approve that. So other than what we've got, the governor himself, he's gone and talked to the right people to approve that or do some kind of a partial funding,
to help the food drives.
Tomas, Governor of Guam, wrote a letter to the legislature, and within a couple of days they approved it.
Right, and that's like 12.9 million for them.
In a heartbeat, right? But Guam's got the ARPA, or whatever funding they've got it, right? We don't have. If there was money within the realm of the governor himself to reprogram, like ARPA, for example, it would have happened weeks ago. But he does not have that, and so he has to rely on the appropriation of the legislature. And we're not trying to put the burden on the legislature, but they also know that there is no immediate funds that the governor can move himself to or reprogram himself, his authority to reprogram to satisfy the food stamp program or some kind of a partial food stamp program.
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of it because I know the money's not even appropriated yet. But let's say it does happen. Can we instantly load that cash into the EBT cards, or is that a whole different issue now?
Well, for us,
and I know you don't work for NAP, but
right.
yeah. So yeah.
But my understanding is that if we are to use local funds to pay for the EBT or to transmit to the EBT or to the food stamp program, either way, voucher or EBT, there's direct and clear language from U.S. Department of Agriculture that we will not get reimbursed. Oh. So we know that coming in already. Yeah. Okay, so that's of a burden for the. Because I think that if U.S. Department of Agriculture were to tell us that we'll reimburse you whatever you put in up to the authorized level for November, for example, then I think the legislature will just reprogram the money. But we know it's going to be resolved in U.S. Congress. We just don't know when. But I think that's the hesitation of some of our elected officials, is that we're not gonna get that money back if we commit that to the food stamp program. But that's a decision that our elected leaders in the House has to come in face to face with and make that decision.
Yeah, because for perspective, right, the longest government shutdown before was 35 days.
Yep.
We're hitting day 30 now.
Yep.
So we're entering historical.
And I think you and I know President Trump, and he's the the creator of that deal. So he's gonna stick to whatever plan he's got and finish that plan. So internally wise, for example, we've started to like, for example, travel, right?
Yeah.
So we've cut travel, but cutting travel is not enough. What I would want to say, like, for example, is that we never reported it, but since October 1st, we've been aggressively collecting on delinquent government travels. These are employees who travel and don't file their trip reports or and so forth. So we are, for the past, I think, a month and a half, a month and a half or 2 months, every paid period or payday, we've deducted close to $90,000 of delinquency travel from travelers from their paycheck, because Secretary of Finance and her people, they're actually going out there and making sure that we cut where we need to cut on the waste, and then we collect what needs to be collected from our own employees who love to travel.
How much of travel is that? Do you know?
Yeah, so depending on the travel of the employee and how delinquent they are, and then the deduction and so forth. But from the last report I saw was like they're averaging about 90,000 every payday from being deducted from employees.
Oh, that just reminded me. Is there any change to the approach for fully federally funded employees?
There's movement and there's requests from people, and we anticipated that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, is that it doesn't really matter if they want to remain at 80 hours or so forth. But at the end of the day, that same money that we can reprogram to pay operational costs. It's operational costs that we're concerned about: power, fuel, equipment, supplies. That's the main concern, because we don't have that. If you look at our budget for the past 3 years, operational cost has always been very low. And we might have the employees, but if we don't have the fuel to give to fuel the patrol cars or the fire trucks or provide that service, then we don't have it. It becomes irrelevant, right? We just have employees sitting in an office. And if we don't have the operational money to pay for the power bill, they can't do anything else in there. So we want to reprogram. I mean, we anticipated that certain employees, federal funded employees, will make a big stink about it. But at the end of the day, we just have to stand firm on our decision that, it's across the board. Take the money we save, put it in operation, and use that in operation.
All right. Yeah, my last question. I know yesterday there was a press conference here with the GISEA's tourism task force. I know there's the other task force, other committees, and their goal, they said, is to create like executive orders or directives that are ready to sign for Governor Apatang. What's the movement on those efforts? As we're cutting, like, what are we doing to create more?
Right. Yeah. So I won't count. There's about 4 executive orders that should be signed by next week that merge certain departments, not departments, but divisions or into department, or agencies into departments and so forth, streamlining personnel and resources. That's one. There's also executive order in the works to create a one-stop business center where you as an entrepreneur, other than major siding or building new hotels or whatever, you come in and you have an idea to open up a consulting business, for example, or a mom and pop store, that you go to that one site and you go in and you build, you apply for a business license, you apply for a registered corporation, you apply for your building code, you apply for your fire code, you apply for your zoning code, and you pay everything in one shot and you're done, and that's in the works. It will be led by the Department of Commerce, and I don't want to jump into that, but it's something that it's gonna be a relief for entrepreneurs that we're pushing out, to show them that it will make it easy for investors, for our own local people who want to start business and so forth.
All right. Mr. Narita, thanks for all that information. I know a lot can change, especially after your meeting this afternoon with MPOT. Anything else you want the people to know?
Well, I know that. First of all, happy Halloween.
Yeah, that's right.
I wish that it would get a better Halloween for everybody, but I know that there's a lot of nonprofit and government agencies out there that are doing some Halloween activities this afternoon. So, hopefully that everybody takes advantage of that.
Yeah.
As for what's going on and what's happening with, especially with food stamp, immediate concerns, if food stamp and the MPOT loan, hopefully, our leaders, your leaders are working. It's not that from afar, yes, you're right. From outside looking in, it's like, what's going on, whatever. But, the solution is we know what the solution is. It's trying to find the funding to fund that solution, right? Because without the funds, it's just hard. And hopefully, I hope that we will have more funding, but limited resources, the revenue that we're bringing in, it's not there. I mean, I see the numbers. And so hopefully that we will be able to find immediate solutions this afternoon, come to an agreement, and then push on from there. But again, everything is up in the air, but it's a more narrow negotiation now rather than what we had 4 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago. Right.
All right, Clyde, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Your search for unbeatable internet speeds is over. Visit Docomo Pacific today and sign up for as low as $60 a month so you can experience our fast, reliable internet speeds for yourself. Docomo Pacific, better together.